8,000 merchant vessels destroyed, tens of thousands of people killed. The German U-boat was a formidable power in both world wars. These U-boats could attack ships 20 times their size from both above and below the surface with their deck guns and torpedoes. Germany developed a fleet of 20 sophisticated submarines in World War I, utilizing these boats to nearly bring Britain to its knees. However, they were hesitant to use this great power. By the time World War II began, Germany had 57 submarines, believing that to rule the waters meant they would win the war. In May of 1940, Adolf Hitler approved unrestricted submarine warfare on all shipping lanes. The U-boats would stalk their targets, often armed merchant ships, for days before striking. After Hitler's suicide, German forces were ordered to cease operations and surrender. The remaining 45 U-boats at sea surfaced and proceeded to ports designated by the Allies.
Crossing the Atlantic during World War II was nothing short of a nightmare for Allied sailors. Merchant ships vital for carrying supplies to Europe faced constant threats from German U-boats lurking beneath the waves. Between 1939 and 1942, over 1,600 Allied ships were lost to U-boat attacks, taking countless lives and millions of tons of cargo to the ocean floor. The stress was unrelenting. Crews spent hours on freezing, rain-soaked decks, watching for the slightest ripple that might signal an enemy. A torpedo could strike without warning, and survival often meant clinging to lifeboats in icy waters. Despite these odds, Allied sailors persisted, knowing their efforts were critical to the war's outcome.
Throughout the war, Allied commanders had to contend with frequent U-boat attacks against transatlantic convoys shipping to Britain along this displayed route. The U-boats were quick and elusive, allowing them to conduct tactical hit-and-run strikes against Allied ships before slipping away. Very few U-boats were sunk during these Atlantic battles, but many Allied commanders adapted to their vulnerability during refueling operations and tracked them through aerial surveillance and communications. One commander, Captain Daniel V. Gallery, used these new strategies to great effect, tracking and capturing the U-505 and using acquired German intelligence to track other submarines.
The U-boat campaign was a cornerstone of the Axis strategy to cut Britain off from its vital supplies, especially from America's resources. Early on, the U-boats were very effective, as merchant ships struggled through dangerous waters, as mentioned earlier. The Germans saw the U-boats as a weapon with immense potential, capable of crippling fleets while remaining nearly invisible. However, there were many limitations: tactical challenges, a lack of sufficient U-boats, and the fear of provoking the U.S. into the war. Ultimately, the legacy of the U-boat campaign is one of unrealized potential. Had the Germans exploited the U-boat advantage before America's industrialized power arrived, it might have changed the course of the war. Instead, that opportunity was lost, leaving behind a legacy of what could have been a game changer for the Axis.